Hey guys, welcome to Dedicated Realtors' fourth episode of podcast. My name is Dil Chowdhury, the team lead from Remax Royal Properties. I'm with my good friend.
I'm Sehr Mahmood from MYCONDOSOURCE at Royal Pit Signature.
Thank you so much for joining us today on a very short notice. We got a few questions to ask, and these are again, this is going to be very casual conversation,
Yeah.
if you will. That's right. So I kind of want to just start up by saying that just be coming here from downtown to here. Thank you for that. And my first question is more so, what is the market like in the GTA? And in terms of, in generally speaking, what is the market like in GTA?
Thanks for asking, Dil. So
Yeah.
I have a lot of information to share about the market today. This actually gives us a lot to be optimistic about and look forward to. So the drivers that we have seen accelerate in our market for the past 10 years continue to show themselves. So things are going to start looking a lot different in 2021 than we have seen here. And this is going to impact the psychology of the consumers a lot more. When you look at the market this year, I don't think a lot of people know this, but it's been stronger than last year. Last year, we had 88,000 sales, and this year, we had 93,000 sales. In the months from July to October, we actually had 10,000 sales a month. It was a record breaking year. So people keep on thinking that, oh, the prices were going to, they thought that the prices were going to go down because that's what the CMHC had told us originally.
Yep.
That they were predicting
Yeah.
a price decline, and what ended up happening? What ended up happening was in some sectors of the detached market, you saw appreciation of close to 30%. On average, since last year, we're at 13.6% appreciation. So it was unlike what anybody had expected.
Yeah.
So the market has been very, very resilient.
And in my opinion, and this is just a more so like what I also experienced with my team and GTA itself, right? Like we, like you said, you're dead on right on the 20% of, or roughly about 20% projections from CMAC saying it's going to decline.
Yeah.
On the flip side, we are seeing, I think it's about a 30% appreciation. Some pockets of GTA. That's right. Of course, anything that between 600 to 800,000, that's more affordable for a lot of families, right? I think what has skyrocketed besides, I would say a lot of people are, buying townhouses, and that has skyrocketed, like really. If freehold in general is also skyrocketed. Besides condo market, I think overall we are in a very good shape. Like you said earlier, they're predicting that we're going to be going down a lot, and it just literally, it literally took on right after. I guess I should say by after June. Like you said, July was like our highest month of this year, I think, in terms of, because the 3 months of spring that we lost due to COVID pandemic, we all went back. The buyers that are actually holding back, they all literally went running just to buy something, right? So yes, the indication of the market is really strong. Here's a follow on that question that I just asked is, what are the condo market trends going into 2021?
Well, I think the best way to predict the future is to look at the past. So this is not actually the first pandemic that we've had. We've undergone 3 in the past. It's been the SARS pandemic, the dot-com crisis, the financial, and all throughout all 3, the trajectory of Toronto real estate was still going up. It never went down. It's like a rubber band. It goes up, it goes down maybe for a few months, and it just bounces back up. So it was very, very strong. If you look at our market right now, we're at 1.6 months of inventory. A healthy market, just so people understand, is about 3 months. So we're actually in very, very low supply right now. And keep in mind that the borders have been closed all year. So there's been no new population increase. All this demand has come from people already existing within the GTA.
It's domestic.
It's domestic. And keep in mind that we had double-digit unemployment, and we still saw, like you said, a 30% increase in many areas of the detached market. In general, if you look at all housing types, 13.6% increase. So it just goes to show how resilient our market really is. So outside of that, the other important thing to remember is that when you look at Toronto as a global city compared to other cities, like you compare to Hong Kong, London, we're 2.5 times cheaper than them. So Toronto is still very, very affordable, and it still makes our housing market and our condo market, outside of this small blip, very, very appealing to the masses to want to immigrate to come here to. And there's a lot of other factors that also drive demand. So if you look at employment, for example, a lot of people don't know this, but 97% of jobs that were lost in November, 97% of jobs that were lost this year have actually been recovered as of November. So in July 2020, the unemployment was at 14.7%. Now we're at 10.7%. So yes, it's up from November of last year, which was 5.6%, but it's getting back to where it was, and the stability is coming back to a market, which is a very, very important factor to remember.
Yeah, and that really, you touched on something that's really, I stick by it every day. The immigration, the border closed down. People are not coming into the city. It's completely shut down in a sense.
Yeah.
There's international students. All of that is completely shut down. Yet we are still like going at, we're not, it's unstoppable. Like everything is just still like our numbers, like we talked about the stats wise, those numbers you just pointed out, they are so true. So that being said, our federal government has announced a while back that we are going to be, they're going to bring about 1.2 million people in this country, not just in Toronto, of course, or GTA per se, but the entire country as a whole. What do you think about that? How that would affect our sort of housing market?
Yeah, so the government has pledged, just like you said, to increase immigration, because this year it was obviously very low. I think about 128,000 people only came into the country, of which 64,000 came to the GTA. So now they've said that we're going to pledge to have 400,000 people enter Canada over the next 3 years. Now, we all know that out of those numbers, half of those people come to Ontario, and out of those have come to the GTA. So we're going to have about 132,000 people over the next 3 years coming specifically to the GTA. We're building at a rate of 20,000 condos a year. So you can already see where the segue for demand is. So, a lot of talk has been about the condo market, the rental market, that there's a lot of condos, that there's so much vacancy. So yes, while there are 10,000 condos in all of downtown that are available, we can't get away from that stat. Think about the fact that there's going to be, out of the 400,000, approximately 132,000 coming into Toronto. That's a huge, huge number.
And that number's, just to interrupt if I may, that number really, it's just that 10,000 vacancies that you're talking about, the properties on the market, it's a short-term thing. People really have to understand that. But there's so much psychological, in people's head. Oh my goodness, I own a condo, and I don't know what I'm gonna do. They're just like so nervous, and as such, they make a rash decision, that they just want to sell the property. Yet there's already 10,000 properties on the market. You want to sell it at a loss of what, $100,000? When people are investing, and this is something that I would just throw at you, when someone's investing money, and like you said, you're heavily into condo, right? When someone's investing in condo market, and if you are not a first-time buyer, you're buying it for investment, and something like this happens, pandemic, where we are not prepared for it, we're not ready for it. We do not have the immigration coming in, we do not have internationals coming in, we have no visitors coming in, Airbnbs, all those units now become a short-term or long-term lease. So you have a lot of inventory you're dealing with, right? That being said, your piece of, advice to those who actually have invested, but thinking of or contemplating to sell those condos in downtown Toronto, what are your 2 cents about it? Like, just, briefly.
So I think that people have to think of real estate as mid to long term. You cannot think of it as short term. Listen, if you have to sell now, you absolutely have to because you've lost your job or so forth, that's a different story. But if you're just worried, you need to hold on to your real estate. Now, why am I so confident in the condo market? It's because of the stats that we just talked about based on the detached market. The detached market is now becoming very, very unaffordable. So if you look back to January 2020, the gap between the detached market and condos was 408,000. You fast forward 10 months later, it's now 583,000. So it's 43% more than it was at the beginning of the year. when you look at the segue in price between the semi-detached market to the condo market, it was 162,000 at the beginning of this year, and now we're at double, 313,000. So how does that affect the condo market? Because the gap is becoming so much more and widening, people are automatically going to start getting priced out of the detached market.
And
what happens?
Semi-detached.
Yes, and then the semi-detached, and then they have to go towards the condo market because this all comes down to affordability. So anybody who's thinking about selling, you have to look at the long-term factor of how these price increases are going to affect the condo market. So while the condo market might not be faring the way that you want it to today, you have to look at the strength of the market as a whole and think of it as a mid to long-term investment. And if you look at the history of Toronto real estate, like we've seen, it has gone up for the past 25 years, you know? So just hold on, sit tight, and you will see the resilience of the market come through.
And you're absolutely right. It's about, like you said, unless you absolutely have to sell, job loss, family emergency, everybody's like, you just don't have the means to carry on the mortgage, then I guess you got no choice. Otherwise, great advice. So viewers out there, please be very mindful. If you are listening to us, you got an investment property somewhere that you are not able to rent it out, or you are renting out at cheaper than what you did before, like what Shar said, hold on to that property. You may have a short-term losses, but long-term is going to make you money. There's tons of population growth in Toronto, and like she talks about those stats in terms of the immigration, there's 44% or 45% of those immigrants that normally settle in Toronto. And and then they kind of go around in GTA. So that kind of want to like that right there, those stats that you talked about, the numbers, people really need to understand that in this pandemic, you have the means to carry on the mortgage. Please do not sell. Hold on to it.
And look at interest rates right now. We're literally at an all-time low. I actually just called. I bank with RBC. I got 1.6 on 2 properties that I was paying 2.79 on. So people who are getting new mortgages, I heard with HSBC, they're giving 0.99 right now. Money is literally cheaper than it ever has been in the history of real estate. And for the first time, the federal government has already indicated that in 2021 and 2022, there's going to be no increases. So how is this different from the past? In the past, we were always wondering what's going to happen to interest rates in 3 months, 6 months. Now we can have full confidence that when we buy something, we're good for at least 2 years, if not more. So that's a huge factor for consumer confidence.
And it is absolutely, because like you said, at lowest cost borrowing, 0.99 or 1.69, like you said, those are, look, I did my mortgage for 4%. Today we're sitting at less than 2%. So we are talking about growth, right? So I just want to kind of know from your perspective, what are you seeing in the pre-construction market currently, and what are your projections for pre-construction within next 5 years or so?
So pre-construction this quarter has been absolutely phenomenal. It's been, the pre-con market has just been on fire. I don't think a lot of people know this, but we've had more sales in Q3 of this year than we've had in all the past 3 years.
Really?
Yes. People historically
even I'm myself shocked.
Yes. So in Q3 of this year, we had 27 launches and we had 6,694 units released, out of which 6,300 units sold. Now, if you want to compare to last Q3, 4,700 units sold. So it was actually 30% increase over the last
What
Q3.
is driving that? What is driving that?
The demand, like all the factors that we talked about. So it's like people are still very, very confident in the market. So and people are now buying without going to sales offices. They're buying through Zoom, through phone calls, through emails. So people are still very, very confident that the real estate market in Toronto is going to hold itself, because the pandemic is a 6-month blip. People who are buying pre-construction are not getting their keys till usually 3 years, 4 years to 5 years away. And they understand that once we get past this, once all the immigration comes in and so forth, they'll never be able to buy 5 years later at today's price. There's a lot of great incentives that the builders have offered this year that were not ever offered before. We saw a lot of deposit structures fall from 20% in a year and a half to 5% a year and only 15%, 5 on occupancy. Builders made it very, very incentivized for people to buy. So we saw a big surge in Q3 in terms of like the quantity of units sold. So now the next thing I want to talk about is pricing. Did pricing fall? No. In Q3, we saw record pricing. Vaughan, there was a project called Festival Tower. It sold at $1,050 a foot. Like this was breaking new records. Peel region, $1,000 a foot. Downtown Toronto is, as you know, expensive, $1,300 to $1,400 a foot. But it's in the suburbs that we saw records getting broken in Q3 of 2020, which is phenomenal considering the circumstances we were in all this time.
Yeah, I mean, this is where I'm kind of even myself, like, you know, when clients ask, hey, what should I go and invest, right? In terms of what would it be the value that I would get on a per square footage, for example, this, right? So, because I know I'm already, if I'm investing something, I'm not going to invest in downtown Toronto and buy something for 1,500 square footage. Let's face it, that's what it is these days, right? So that's where my next question is kind of like, which area of GTA buyers could get a better deal on a per square footage?
So Dil, look, the suburb market has also been rising a lot in terms of price. So people could not fathom $1,000 a square foot in the suburbs before, but they are seeing that. However, that being said, I do see there being a lot of growth in the Oakville market specifically. And this area has a little bit more room to grow than other regions in the suburbs. So it's around at $850 a square foot. Why do I love the Oakville market so much? A lot of people don't know this, but it's actually the Oakville GO station is the second most used GO station after Union Station. There's 5,000 people who go to Oakville daily to work. Like you would always
think,
a
hub. It's like a hub.
It's like an anchor hub. So
the
jobs per acre in Oakville are 47.7 versus when you compare to other suburbs, which is 9.7. So it's 5 times more job growth in Oakville right now than any other suburb. So if someone is looking to invest outside of downtown due to prices, I would say that's a great suburb to get into. They have 8 kilometers of shoreline, 2,500 acres. They have the best schools in the city. They have Appleby College. They have access to the best hospitals. Oakville, Trafalgar.
And it's right off the 403 QEW.
So we're seeing that there's a lot of room for growth there. If you look at rental rates in Oakville, they're very similar, believe it or not, to downtown Toronto right now. So 1 bedroom in Oakville is renting for $1,900. Which is crazy. It's like basically downtown pricing and then volume. So when you look on MLS right now, while there's 10,000 rentals in downtown, there's about only 70 rentals in all of Oakville. So there's not much supply there. So there's a lot of room for growth to happen to get absorbed very, very quickly. The rental rates last year grew 8%. And this year, during the pandemic, rental rates in Oakville grew 10%. So the growth is becoming very, very fast right now there.
So in terms of the project that you talked about in Oakville, there's 1 or 2 projects right now in Oakville, right? You guys launch? I know that you're working on. Are there any, perhaps within GTA, any future projects coming that would be similar sort of, sort of a price range?
Yes. So one of the projects that we just launched was called MYCONDOSOURCE. They're actually coming up with another tower at the end of January. So that's going to be a great, project to get into as well. Like phase 2 is coming literally in 2 months, pretty much the same incentives. Oakville's one of the few areas where you can still get parking and locker for free. In all the other suburbs, now you're paying for parking and locker. The vacancy rates in Oakville are at 0.6%. So when you compare that even to downtown's around 3% right now. So there's a lot of strength in Oakville that I believe that will give people a lot of room for appreciation in the future.
Amazing. So the viewers, the followers out there, you just heard Shar, what she just said. If you are looking for something that you're going to invest and you actually want to see value in it, get out of the Toronto, go to Oakville, go to Burlington, perhaps in that area, go to even outside of that. But Oakville is one of the biggest city in GTA, and the GO station is actually the 2nd largest GO station in entire Ontario. It's like an hub outside of Union Station of Toronto. So here's my 2 cents about Oakville. And I truly believe what Shar just said is right. I would say that at the end of the day, if you are looking to make money, this project will probably take 2 to 3 years to build. You're still buying something for less than $850 square footage. With that price range, you're getting a parking and a locker for free. If you're going to go and buy something in Markham, Newmarket, Richmond Hill, name any of those places, you are paying extra $30,000-$40,000 for parking. You are paying extra $5,000 to $10,000 for locker. That's right. Here it is. The Oakville does offer that. It's an amazing city. The crime rate is next to nothing. That's right. And an amazing neighborhood. So check it out. In 2 months, Nobu is doing another phase 2, I believe. So check when that gets launched, contact us for more information. All right. So I know there has been a lot of talk about it. You touched on earlier as well, Shar. Yeah. And thank you for answering those questions. And a lot of stats that you provided today is amazing. So there has been a lot of talk about downtown Toronto, and we even talked about earlier, touched on it as well, is that there's way too much inventory, and people are just not sure how to, like every time they're talking about downtown Toronto, they're like, oh, I don't want to go downtown Toronto. But what are your take on this negative press that you're hearing?
So, I mean, it's no secret that the downtown market is the one that's taken a toll this year. So the only reason why the overall stats are at 13.6% versus like detached, as we know, went up 30% is because of the downtown market that has taken a toll. But we have to think of the downtown market long term. Yeah. And the important things that we are seeing is that consumer confidence is now actually coming back. Bloomberg just had a report saying consumer confidence is at its peak all year. So in the past 8 months, people were feeling very like not they weren't feeling confident with the market. Yeah. But for the first time, we're seeing that even in the stock market, the confidence has gone up. Same with consumer. We gotta redo this section.
Okay.
Sorry.
Let's do it.
Okay.
I think you're good.
You thought it was good?
I think you're good, but I'll just do it again. No worries. We're gonna start the same question again. Okay. So when you're ready. Okay. So, hey, Shar, so just again, thank you for answering all the other questions. And this question is something that I've been asked every single day. Yeah. And a lot of our followers, clients that we are dealing with, what is going on with downtown? And the moment our team proposed an idea, let's go and get you an investment property in downtown, because I truly believe there is a deal out there. There's definitely a deal right there right now, because a condo that would have cost us, let's say, $550,000 to $600,000. Now I'm able to grab it for $500,000 or $520,000. There's a little bit of bargain there, and that bidding war is not there because of the pandemic. That's right. Now that negative thought or the press out there, and how do you yourself overcome? Or what's your thought about it anyway?
Yeah, so good question. So as you mentioned, downtown, guys, is on sale right now.
Pretty much.
Going into the pandemic, you could not get a condo. Right. Everything was going into bidding wars. Yeah. It was very, very frustrating for most buyers. They would see something on MLS for, let's say, $600,000. Next thing you know, it's sold for $700,000. It's out of their price range. Yeah. So now, guys, like downtown is on sale. This is actually a great opportunity to get into downtown. So, people are like, well, the prices are going down, but you have to think about the strength of the downtown core. So when you look at employment, the city of Toronto employment grew 20% from 2009 to 2019.
The 10 years,
That's a lot of growth. And the downtown market represented 40% of this employment. Yeah. So that's a huge stat. So when people go back to work, almost half those people are going to go back to the downtown core. So this is what people are forgetting. Right now, there's a lot of vacancy because of the fact that people are working from home. There was a lot of uncertainty. But like we have seen now with this vaccine coming, all of that, I think that by the time the summer hits, we're going to see things go a lot more back to normal. And you have to look at the fact that there's a lot of growth factors in downtown. So when you look at sectors that are growing, for example, the tech sector, the tech sector has grown 85% in the last 5 years. 2/3 of those jobs are actually in downtown. So those are the kind of things that we have to remember, that we have the strength of the downtown core. That's where the jobs are. That's where people will want to live once they go back to work. We have 100,000 jobs that were added just in downtown over the past 5 years. So when you say that there's 10,000 condos available, think about the fact that 100,000 new jobs were created. And now with all the new immigration that's coming in, this is a very short-term blip that is actually the best time to take advantage of. And that's my opinion on downtown.
So, Shar, thank you again so much for providing all the facts, the numbers, the employment rates, the appreciation for last few years. And I think none of our episodes we ever discussed in-depth numbers and the percentage of the growth of different sectors of the real estate market. Here's my last question to ask you for this podcast is that where do you see Toronto in general and GTA in general, where is it heading to for next 5 to 10 years? And we're talking strictly pre-con.
Yeah, so like earlier this year, like I said, like people didn't know what was happening. Now that we know that there's a vaccine rolling out, we've seen record interest rates with the borders opening up, with all the international students are going to start coming back. 1.2 million people, guys, in the next 3 years, 3.3 million people over the next 10 years. There's nowhere, there's not enough supply out there. So I'm very, very confident in this market due to those reasons. I think that there's a lot of factors that show that we're going to have an amazing year coming up, not only this year, but for years to follow.
Yeah, and you also touched on earlier, one last thing is that tech is a huge part of our economy, the tech sector, and there's a lot of job growth in that, particularly in the last few years. And I think it's just, I know personally a lot of clients moved from states to Toronto. Better reason, politically, number one, for a lot of them. Other reason is, they just want to have a stable, area. They love Toronto. They love the GTA area. It's the violent rate is a lot less than versus the bigger city like Chicago, New York, name any of those big cities, right? So, and I think one of the last question, and this, I'm sorry, earlier, I think this question is I'd like to ask you because you're really in a downtown core market, is that people that come from US, they have never seen the appreciation they ever see here. And why so? So like they will buy a house for $350 or a condo. It doesn't even go to $400,000 for 5 years. But in here, you buy a condo for $350. In 5 years, it's actually $500,000. Why so is that?
It's because of our immigration. It's because of the fact that there's so many people coming to this market. The jobs are being created, like we talked about, not just with the tech sector, but so many different industries, right, across the board. So when you factor in that we have like some of the best schools in all of North America, huge. All the international students are coming. A lot of them, when they come, they don't come to leave. They come and then they end up staying. So it's not an inflow and outflow. It's more like just the inflow. So with that, with jobs coming in, this is why the demand keeps rising. So when you look at the math of how much we are able to build, and now it's becoming harder and harder for developers to acquire land in the downtown core and so forth.
There's nothing left,
so we're seeing less construction. So just this year, actually, within the downtown core, even amongst all the sales we saw in the 905s, there was actually only 3 project launches in the downtown core. This is not much supply. That's less than 1,700 units. So when you start talking about numbers like 132,000 people coming a year, most people who are new immigrants rent, and they like to be in the core because of school, because of proximity to the work. So that is why you see those prices escalating, because it's about supply and demand.
Of course. All right, that being said, the followers out there, the viewers, thank you so much, Shar, for coming here today. And
thanks for having me, Dil.
Absolutely, it's an honor. She is the VIP agent who gets all these deals that you need from any of the builders. She has a great rapport and relationship with the builders. So she gets first hands on allocations. So if you ever need to connect, she's the right person to connect. Of course, the followers from our team, we're here to help. We work with her. So we do get those allocations, whether it's a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, or a bachelor. She always connects with me, and we're in touch. Thank you again, Shar, for coming in. Thank you so much for that. And I just want to give you guys a perspective of 2021. And before I do that, I just want to say thank you for sticking with the Dedicated Realtors team. We are with you throughout this year. This was a really tough and challenging year through the pandemic. We are given this sort of disease that we didn't know how to even react on it, and we all did our best to protect our family and friends. Now, 2020 has been a great year for a lot of us, especially for real estate side. 2021 is even going to be better because vaccine is already coming in. That's right. So say 2021, we're here for you. If you need anything with real estate, talk to us, connect with us. Other than that, we look forward to serve all of you guys for all your resale needs. And we thank you for tuning in.